Imagine you have a brand new manual in your hands. Like a thick instruction book.
Right, like something you get when you buy a complicated piece of furniture.
Exactly. So you open it up and you read the very first page. But this manual spends the next 150 pages just screaming at you.
Screaming at you, what do you mean?
I mean, it tells you that manuals are completely useless. It says reading about a subject is a total waste of time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It basically tells you to throw the book away immediately. And, well, back in 1922, a man wrote a novel that achieved exactly that.
That is a fascinating way to look at it.
He created a masterpiece that tells you to stop reading and start living. So welcome, everyone, to our deep dive.
We are so glad you are here with us today.
Today, we are exploring a book that is famous all over the world. It is called Siddhartha, and it was written by the German author Hermann Hesse.
Yes, and that manual analogy is a perfect way to describe the central mystery of this book.
Right. It is such a strange concept.
It really is. And, Hermann Hesse published this novel during a very specific time in history.
The early 1920s, right?
Exactly. Europe had just gone through the terrible destruction of the First World War.
Which was incredibly traumatic for everyone.
Completely. Millions of people were feeling totally lost. The old rules of society they did not make sense to them anymore.
I mean, how could they? Everything they knew was destroyed.
Right. So people were searching for new ways to understand the world. And many began to look toward Eastern philosophy.
Because the Western ideas had kind of failed them.
That is exactly how they felt. Now, Hesse was deeply inspired by his own travels in India. He studied a lot of Buddhist and Hindu texts.
And he wrote this book in very simple, beautiful German. But the ideas inside it are just massive.
They really are. And it later became a huge cultural phenomenon in the West, especially during the 1960s.
Oh, yeah. The whole hippie movement, right.
Yes. A whole new generation started searching for personal freedom, and they loved this book. His writing was so impactful that he eventually won the Nobel Prize in literature.
Which is a huge deal. So we have a very clear mission for this deep dive today.
We certainly do.
We are going to follow the main character of this book. He is a young man named Siddhartha.
And we're going to track his entire life story.
Right. From his teenage years all the way to his old age, he has one single goal in life.
He wants to find complete spiritual enlightenment.
Exactly. He wants to understand the ultimate truth of the universe.
Yeah.
But the way he tries to reach this goal is what makes the story so interesting.
Because he rejects everything, right?
Yes. He decides to reject every single teacher. He walks away from his family, his religion, and all the traditional schools.
He decides that he must find his very own path completely alone.
But before we go step by step through his life, we need to establish some important context for you, the listener.
Right. It is important to know that Siddhartha is considered high literature.
Meaning it is not just a quick, easy read for the beach.
Exactly. The author did not write it just to entertain you for a few hours. He wrote it to challenge you.
To ask really uncomfortable questions about how you are living your own life.
Yes. It is definitely not a textbook that will give you a simple list of rules for happiness.
Which brings us back to that massive paradox I mentioned at the beginning.
The paradox about the manual.
Yeah. A paradox is basically a situation that seems impossible because it contradicts itself.
And the paradox of Siddhartha is that it is a beautifully written book that strongly argues you cannot learn things from books.
Right. It challenges the entire concept of traditional education. It challenges the idea of listening to experts.
Honestly, it even challenges the whole purpose of this deep dive we are doing right now.
I know. It is pretty funny when you think about it. We are analyzing a book that tells you not to analyze things.
It is a very bold artistic choice by the author. He is basically warning the reader.
Warning them about what?
Not to treat his novel as a magic key. The words on the page are just symbols. They are not the truth itself.
Oh, I like that. The words are just symbols. So let us examine the moment in the story where this idea becomes crystal clear.
This is one of the most provocative scenes in the entire novel.
Siddhartha is a young man here. He is traveling with his best friend, and they hear about a man called Gautama.
And Gautama is the Buddha.
Right. And in the world of this story, the Buddha is not just a myth or a legend. He is a living, breathing human being.
A human who has actually achieved perfect enlightenment.
Yeah, he has basically solved the puzzle of human suffering.
Meeting the Buddha is the ultimate dream for any spiritual seeker in this universe.
So Siddhartha and his friend finally find the Buddha. They sit down in a crowd, and they listen to his teachings.
And the Buddha explains the universe with perfect clarity.
He explains the cycle of life, the nature of suffering, and exactly how to find
This
peace.
logic is completely flawless. There are absolutely no holes in his argument.
Siddhartha listens very carefully. But his reaction is, well, it is entirely unexpected.
What does he do?
He stands up and he tells the Buddha, "Your teachings are perfect. You have found the absolute truth."
But then he refuses to join him.
Exactly. His friend decides to stay and become a monk. But Siddhartha just turns around and walks away into the forest.
Think about how crazy that sounds to us.
I know. If you were looking for gold and you met a man standing next to a mountain of gold,
And he offered to show you exactly how to dig for it.
right, would you just walk away? It makes no sense.
Well, you would only walk away if you realized that the gold he was offering was not the kind you actually needed.
That is a great point. And Siddhartha explains his reasoning very clearly.
He looks at the Buddha and says, "You reach this perfect peace through your own incredible journey.
Yeah, he says you made your own choices, you faced your own demons.
You meditated under your own tree." He points out that the Buddha did not reach enlightenment by sitting in a crowd and listening to a teacher.
Siddhartha realizes that a spiritual path is completely unique to the individual.
You cannot just copy someone else.
Right. He understands that you cannot just put your feet inside someone else's footprints and expect to magically arrive at their destination.
Your feet are a different size. Your weight is different.
Your journey must be your own.
This specific scene introduces the core philosophical foundation of Hesse's novel.
And it introduces a very important difference between two words.
Yes, Hesse makes a critical distinction between knowledge and wisdom.
We really need to break this down for the listener, because in everyday English conversation, we use those words like they mean the exact same thing.
We do, but let us define them clearly within the context of the book.
Okay, let us start with knowledge. What is it?
Knowledge is information. It is facts, data, and mechanics.
Stuff you can memorize.
Exactly. Knowledge can absolutely be transferred from one person to another.
You can write it down on a piece of paper, hand it to a stranger, and they can possess that same knowledge.
Wisdom, on the other hand, is not information.
So what is it?
Wisdom is internal transformation. It is a deep, fundamental change that happens inside your soul.
Oh, wow. So it is much more personal.
Yes. Wisdom cannot be packaged. It cannot be transferred to someone else. It only comes from lived personal experience.
Okay, I want to test this idea. Because saying knowledge cannot be transferred, it sounds very poetic.
But
But it feels like it ignores how human society actually works.
how do you mean?
Well, think about a medical school. We bring thousands of young students into a classroom, right?
Right.
And expert doctors transfer their knowledge to these students. Because of that transfer knowledge, those students go out and perform surgeries.
And they save millions of lives.
Exactly. Engineers transfer knowledge to build airplanes that do not crash.
Yeah.
If we could not transfer knowledge, we would still be living in caves.
That is very true.
So is Hess suggesting that going to school and learning facts is just a waste of time?
That is a vital distinction to make. Hesse is not anti-science, and he is certainly not anti-education.
Okay, that is a relief.
When it comes to the physical mechanics of the world, like how to fix a broken bone or how to build a bridge, transferred knowledge is absolutely essential.
The Buddha could easily teach someone how to build a wooden chair.
Exactly. But Hesse is talking about a very specific realm. He is talking about the realm of the human spirit.
Aye.
He is talking about wisdom, about living.
So he means the emotional realities of being human.
Precisely. You can teach a medical student the biological mechanics of how the human heart stops beating. That is knowledge.
Right.
But you cannot teach that same student how to process the grief of losing their own mother.
Wow. Yeah, you really cannot.
You cannot give them a 10-step manual on how to find meaning in a world that has so much suffering.
Or how to feel genuine love.
Exactly. You can read 1,000 beautiful poems about love. But until you actually fall in love and feel your own heartbreak, you have no wisdom about it.
You only have knowledge.
Yes. That is the difference.
That distinction makes complete sense. You know, I'm thinking about how we try to learn complex physical skills too.
Like sports.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine reading a highly detailed scientific book about swimming.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You study the diagrams. You memorize the exact angle your arm should enter the water.
You learn the breathing techniques.
Right. You learn the chemistry of how oxygen moves through your blood while you hold your breath.
So you know everything about it.
Sitting in your comfortable chair in your living room, you possess perfect knowledge of swimming.
But possessing knowledge of the water does not mean you know the water.
Exactly. Because then someone picks you up and throws you into the real ocean.
And that is a very different experience.
The water is freezing. The waves are crashing violently over your head. The salt is burning your eyes.
And you cannot breathe.
In that moment of pure panic, your perfect textbook does not help you at all. The mechanics of the arm angle do not matter when you are terrified.
That is so true. The book is useless there.
You only develop the wisdom of swimming by struggling, by swallowing salt water, fighting the panic, and eventually learning how to relax and float.
The ocean is the only teacher that can give you that wisdom.
Yes, and we can see this exact same process in something many of you listening right now are doing.
Which is learning a new language.
Oh, language learning is the perfect example of this.
It really is. You can sit in a quiet library for 5 years. You can study every single grammar rule.
You can memorize 10,000 vocabulary words using flashcards.
You can pass the highest written exams with a perfect score. You have gathered an immense amount of knowledge.
But then you travel to a busy city where everyone actually speaks that language.
And you walk into a noisy cafe to order a simple cup of coffee.
Right. And a real person speaks to you quickly using slang, while a coffee machine makes terrible noise in the background.
What happens? Suddenly your textbook knowledge completely vanishes.
Your brain just freezes.
Yeah.
You say the wrong word, people look at you, and you feel your face turn hot red with embarrassment.
The library cannot prepare you for the emotional reality of communicating with human beings.
But what happens next is the important part. You stay in that city.
You go to that same cafe every single day.
You make hundreds of embarrassing mistakes. You struggle to express your personality. You feel frustrated and, well, kind of foolish.
But slowly, over many months, the rhythm of the language enters your body.
You stop translating words in your head.
You start to actually feel the language. You start to laugh at jokes without thinking about the grammar.
You transform from a student of the language into a speaker of the language.
And the embarrassment and the daily struggle were not obstacles to your learning.
They were the actual requirements for gaining wisdom.
Exactly. You could never reach that point of feeling the language just by reading the textbook one more time. You needed the awkwardness.
This is such a universal human reality. We often receive excellent advice from our parents or older friends, right?
Oh, all the time.
They might say, do not worry so much about what other people think of you.
You hear the words. You understand the grammar of the sentence.
But the words are kind of empty.
It is just noise until you live it.
You have to spend years worrying about what people think. You have to exhaust yourself trying to please everyone.
You have to experience the deep burnout of living for other people's approval.
And then one day, you hit a wall. You decide to stop caring. You feel this immense relief in your chest.
And suddenly, you remember the advice your parent gave you 10 years ago.
You say, oh, that is what they meant. Now I understand.
The knowledge was given to you 10 years ago, but the wisdom only arrived today through your own pain.
Because Siddhartha understands this fundamental truth deeply, he knows he cannot stay in the safe, peaceful camp with the Buddha.
He realizes that if he stays, he will just be imitating a wise man.
He would just be pretending.
He knows he must go out into the wild, unpredictable world and make his own terrible mistakes.
He has to jump into the freezing ocean.
This decision launches him into the core of the novel, and his journey is divided into 3 distinct, intense stages of his life.
Right. So if the ultimate teacher cannot hand him the answers, he has to experiment on himself.
He treats his own life as a laboratory.
The first stage of his experiment is extreme asceticism. He becomes a wandering monk in the forest.
Now, the term ascetic refers to someone who intentionally denies themselves all physical comforts and pleasures.
So he joins a group of men who believe that the human body is basically a trap.
Yes. They believe that physical desires, like hunger, thirst, sleep, sexual desire, are the chains that keep the soul locked in suffering.
And to break the chains, you must torture the body until it stops demanding things.
It is a very intense philosophy.
He gives away all his normal clothes and wears rough, dirty rags. He sleeps on the hard, cold ground in the winter.
He stops eating for weeks at a time. He watches his own body become incredibly thin and weak.
He sits in the burning sun without moving. It is a process of intense self-destruction.
It really is.
Why would an intelligent young man choose to suffer so violently?
He does it to achieve total dominance over his biology. He wants to prove that his mind is stronger than his flesh.
Wow. So it is about control.
Completely. Through intense concentration, he learns to actually slow his own heartbeat.
That is wild.
He learns how to detach his mind from physical pain. If his body screams for food, his mind simply watches the hunger from a distance, completely unaffected.
Like he is outside of his own body.
Yes. For a short time, he feels like he has conquered the human condition. He feels a real sense of superiority over normal people.
But it is an illusion, isn't it? He realizes that this extreme control is really just another form of running away.
Exactly. He has an intellectual awakening. He realizes that starving himself is no different than drinking alcohol to forget a bad day.
Oh, that is a powerful comparison.
Think about it. When a man gets drunk, he escapes his anxiety for a few hours. He feels numb.
Right. But the next morning, the alcohol leaves his blood, his head aches, and all his problems are still sitting there waiting for him.
Exactly. Siddhartha realizes that he is just getting drunk on pain and fasting.
He is escaping his ego for a few days by nearly dying.
But as soon as he drinks water and eats a piece of bread, his normal human ego returns.
He has not found true internal freedom. He has only found a clever psychological trick to numb himself.
He is still trapped.
So, realizing that the path of extreme physical denial is a dead end, Siddhartha makes a radical pivot.
He leaves the deep forest. He leaves the monks.
And he walks toward the largest, richest city he can find.
He swings the pendulum completely to the opposite extreme.
This brings us to the second stage of his journey, hedonism, or the worldly path.
If escaping the physical world did not work, he decides he will dive into the physical world as deeply as possible.
He crosses a river and enters a bustling city. And the very first thing he does is seek out a famous, beautiful courtesan named Kamala.
He wants to learn everything about physical love, desire, and romance.
He wants to experience the intoxicating feeling of attraction.
Now, Kamala agrees to teach him the arts of love, but she's practical. She tells him he needs clothes, shoes, and money.
Right, he cannot come to her looking like a starving beggar from the forest.
So, Siddhartha decides to enter the world of commerce. He gets a job with a very wealthy merchant.
And because Siddhartha spent years training his mind to be perfectly calm and focused in the forest, business is incredibly easy for him.
He does not panic when a deal goes bad.
He is charming, patient, and highly observant.
And he becomes incredibly successful.
Slowly, over many years, he transforms. He moves into a massive house. He buys fine silk clothes.
He hires servants to cook for him.
He starts eating rich, heavy foods and drinking expensive wines. He throws big parties.
He plays games with high stakes, gambling away large sums of money just to feel the thrill of risking it all.
He is living what most people in the city would consider the ultimate dream life.
But Hesse uses this stage to illustrate a profound psychological trap. It is something we now call the hedonic treadmill.
The hedonic treadmill. Can you explain that for the listener?
Sure. When Siddhartha first tastes luxury, it feels amazing. The soft bed is a miracle after years of sleeping on cold rocks.
Obviously, yeah.
But human beings adapt very quickly. Soon, the soft bed is just normal. It gives him no special joy.
So to feel that same pleasure again, he needs an even softer bed.
Exactly. The rich food becomes boring, so he needs heavier, more expensive food.
The thrill of gambling requires larger and larger bets to produce the same adrenaline rush.
He is chasing a feeling that keeps running away from him.
And this physical environment begins to change his internal chemistry.
The heavy food makes his body slow and sluggish.
The constant desire for more gold makes his mind anxious. He starts to look at other people not as human beings, but as tools to help him make more money.
He becomes arrogant, impatient, and deeply unhappy.
The novel describes this beautifully. It says that the soul of the merchant life had slowly crept into him.
Like dust settling on a window until you can no longer see the sun.
Wow. He is trapped in what Eastern philosophy calls samsara.
The endless, exhausting cycle of worldly desire and suffering.
He has everything a man could want on paper, but he feels entirely empty inside.
This emptiness eventually turns into a crushing depression.
It is not just sadness. It is a complete loss of meaning. He realizes he has wasted decades of his life playing a foolish game.
He feels deeply ashamed of the man he has become. A greedy, tired, selfish businessman.
He hates his life so much that he leaves his massive house in the middle of the night. He walks into the dark forest, and he stands by a deep river.
He is seriously considering throwing himself in and ending his life permanently.
He has hit absolute rock bottom.
The monk path failed to give him wisdom, and the merchant path almost killed his soul.
This brings him to the edge of the water, but he does not end his life.
Instead, he falls into a deep, deep sleep.
When he wakes up, the old Siddhartha, the arrogant monk and the greedy merchant, is dead.
A new Siddhartha wakes up. This is the beginning of the third and final stage, the synthesis.
Synthesis is a great word here. It means taking opposing ideas or experiences and combining them to create a new, higher understanding.
He does not run back to the forest to starve again, and he does not return to the city to make money.
He decides to stay right there in the middle, by the river.
It is at this point that Hesse reveals the true philosophical architecture of the novel.
When Siddhartha looks back at his life, he has a massive realization.
Hesse argues through Siddhartha that every single terrible mistake, every year of wasted time, every moment of greed, and every foolish decision was absolutely biologically and spiritually necessary.
Okay, I really want to pull this idea apart because it sounds very counterintuitive.
How so?
You are saying Siddhartha had to become a corrupt, depressed, greedy businessman in order to become wise.
Yes.
Could he not just skip that terrible part?
Hesse suggests that skipping it is impossible. If Siddhartha had remained a pure, clean monk in the forest, he would have spent his entire life wondering what the city was like.
Oh, I see. He would always have that curiosity.
He would have felt secretly superior to the normal people in the world, judging them for their desires without ever actually understanding the weight of those desires.
He had to be corrupted by the world.
Yes, he had to taste the poison of greed and feel the agony of losing his soul so that he could finally understand human nature from the inside.
He needed to be destroyed in order to be rebuilt.
Exactly.
Okay, I have to step in and push back on this philosophy. Because if we apply this to the real world, it sounds incredibly dangerous.
Dangerous in what way?
Well, if we justify all our darkest, most destructive phases by saying, well, it was just a necessary part of my spiritual journey, doesn't that give us an excuse to behave terribly?
I understand your point.
What if my necessary journey involves lying to people, stealing money, or destroying someone's family? Can I just cause immense pain to others, look at the wreckage, and say, it is fine, I am gathering wisdom, it is all part of the path?
That is the most critical question we can ask about this text. If you misread it, Siddhartha sounds like a manual for ultimate selfishness.
Right. It sounds like a free pass.
But we must look closely at how the universe of the book actually operates. Hesse is exploring a deeply internal psychological mechanism. Siddhartha does not get a magical free pass for his bad behavior.
The universe punishes him severely.
The cost is enormous. The cost is almost his life. He pays with decades of deep suffering.
He experiences intense self-hatred, anxiety, and a feeling of spiritual death.
Hesse is not writing a moral rule book that says, go out and hurt people to become wise. He is acknowledging a very harsh, unchangeable reality of human psychology.
Which is that you cannot undo the past.
Exactly. Once a mistake is made, the only way to survive the crushing guilt of that mistake is to extract meaning from it.
Hitting rock bottom and suffering the consequences of our own blindness is often the only pressure strong enough to crack open our ego.
So Hesse is not giving us permission to make mistakes on purpose. He is giving us a framework for how to survive the mistakes we have already made.
Okay, that makes much more sense. It is about looking backward at the most shameful, painful parts of your history.
And realizing that those specific failures taught you lessons that success never could.
This connects so perfectly to our everyday lives. Think about a time when you completely failed at something.
Like learning a complex skill.
Yeah, let us go back to something like public speaking or playing a musical instrument. There is always a long, agonizing stage where you are terrible at it.
Oh, absolutely.
You stand up in front of people, you forget your words, your voice shakes, and you feel entirely humiliated.
You walk away thinking, that was a disaster. I made a huge mistake trying this. I look like a fool.
During that stage, the pain feels completely pointless. You wish you could just erase the memory.
But then look at it 5 years later.
After you have kept practicing,
Yeah.
after you've become a confident speaker or a great musician,
How do you view that humiliating day then?
you realize it was not a printless mistake at all. It was a structural requirement.
You literally could not build the confidence you have today without surviving the humiliation of that specific day.
You needed to feel the panic so you could learn how to breathe through it.
The valley of feeling stupid was the only road to the mountain of skill.
Hesse is taking that exact concept and applying it to the entire moral and spiritual span of a human life.
That realization that the pain was not an accident, but a requirement, is the foundation of Siddhartha's healing.
And this healing takes place during his final stage, living beside the river.
Let us explore the river deeply, because this is where all the themes of the novel really come together.
So Siddhartha is broken and exhausted. He decides to stay by the river, and he meets a man named Vasudeva.
Vasudeva is the ferryman.
His entire life consists of guiding a small wooden boat from one side of the river to the other, carrying travelers.
He lives in a small hut, eats simple food, and does manual labor every day.
Yet, within the universe of this book, this humble ferryman is presented as the ultimate master.
He possesses a wisdom far deeper than the ascetic monks, far deeper than the wealthy merchants.
In many ways, a wisdom that mirrors the Buddha himself.
But what makes Vasudeva so fascinating is his method.
Or his lack of a method.
Exactly. If you go to a traditional teacher, they will talk to you for hours.
They will draw diagrams, give you rules, and tell you how to live. Vasudeva does absolutely none of that.
So what exactly does he do when Siddhartha comes to him in pain?
He listens. He simply listens.
But he does not listen the way you and I listen.
No. Let us be honest about normal human conversation. When we are listening to someone, our brains are usually very busy.
We are judging what they are saying. We are deciding if we agree or disagree.
And worst of all, we are usually just waiting for them to pause so we can deliver the brilliant response we have been planning in our heads.
We are not truly receiving them. We are just reloading our own weapons.
Vasudeva's listening is entirely different. The book describes him listening like a quiet, empty room receiving a sound.
Or like a tree absorbing sunlight.
He does not interrupt. He does not frown or smile in judgment.
He does not offer a 10-step plan to fix Siddhartha's depression.
He absorbs Siddhartha's entire painful life story perfectly, without blocking any of it.
This kind of pure, silent attention acts like a mirror.
It allows Siddhartha to finally see himself clearly without feeling attacked.
And Vasudeva tells Siddhartha that he did not learn this from a school. He learned it from the river itself.
He tells Siddhartha to sit quietly and learn from the water. We need to unpack the symbolism of this river because it is the central image of the entire novel.
The river is a physical representation of a core concept in Eastern philosophy. It is called impermanence.
Impermanence means that absolutely nothing in the universe stays the same.
The water is constantly moving, changing shape, rushing over rocks, evaporating into the air, and falling as rain.
It tells us that fighting change is fighting reality.
But the river is not just about change. It is also about the physical reality of time.
Yes. Think about the physics of a river from a broad perspective.
The water exists at its source as melting snow high up in the cold mountains.
At the exact same second, the water is crashing violently down a steep waterfall.
And at that exact same second, the water is moving incredibly slowly through a wide, flat valley, emptying peacefully into the vast ocean.
The river is everywhere at once.
Precisely. It is at the beginning, the middle, and the end simultaneously.
There is no past river and no future river.
There is only the river present everywhere.
This is a beautiful way to understand human life. When Siddhartha looks at the river, he realizes that the concept of time is a human illusion.
We chop our lives into pieces. We say that was the stupid teenage me, and this is the smart adult me.
But the river teaches him that life is a single unbroken thread.
The foolish young monk who starved himself, the arrogant merchant who loved money, and the quiet old man sitting by the water are not different people.
They are exactly the same water, just at different points in the geography of life.
The mountain water and the ocean water are the same substance.
This profound shift in perspective changes how Siddhartha hears the world.
When he sits in absolute stillness and listens to the rushing water, he stops hearing just the physical sound of the river.
He begins to hear the psychological sounds of humanity.
He hears the bright, high voices of joy and birth.
He hears the dark, low voices of agony, greed, and death.
He hears the voices of the people he loved and the people he hurt.
And crucially, these voices are not fighting each other.
In our normal minds, joy and pain are enemies. We want joy, and we want to destroy pain.
But in the sound of the river, the joy and the pain are just different notes in a massive symphony.
They blend together into one continuous, harmonious sound.
The book describes this as the sacred syllable, OM. It represents the complete, perfect totality of the universe, exactly as it is.
Recognizing this totality leads Siddhartha to the ultimate goal of his journey.
He discovers the highest form of wisdom.
In Hesse's philosophy, ultimate wisdom is not a collection of brilliant facts.
It is not even having perfect moral behavior.
Ultimate wisdom is one single action: acceptance.
Acceptance. Seeing the brutal, beautiful reality of the world and completely dropping your weapons.
Stopping the endless war against the things you cannot change.
Yes. But Hesse does not let Siddhartha achieve this acceptance easily.
He tests Siddhartha with the most difficult challenge a human being can face.
He introduces the storyline of Siddhartha's son.
This is where the philosophy meets painful reality.
Siddhartha discovers that he has a son with Kamala, the courtesan from his past.
After Kamala tragically dies from a snake bite, the young boy comes to live with Siddhartha and Vasudeva at the quiet river.
Remember, this boy's grown up in the wealthy city.
He is used to soft beds, rich food, servants, and constant entertainment.
Suddenly, his mother is dead, and he is forced to live in a dirty hut with two strange old men who eat plain rice and sit in silence.
The boy is furious, he is grieving, he is angry, and he is completely spoiled.
He disrespects Siddhartha. He refuses to do any work, and he constantly complains about the boredom of the river.
Siddhartha reacts the way any loving parent would. He feels an overwhelming, desperate love for this boy.
He looks to his son and remembers his own past. He remembers the years he wasted chasing money.
He remembers the depression and the feeling of wanting to die.
Siddhartha desperately wants to save his son from experiencing that same agonizing pain.
So Siddhartha tries to be the perfect teacher. He tries to be gentle. He tries to be endlessly patient.
He ignores the boy's insults. He tries to explain the peace of the river.
He is trying to transfer his hard-earned wisdom directly into his son's brain.
He is basically trying to say, look, I have already touched the hot stove. It burns terribly. Please trust me, do not touch it.
But Siddhartha has forgotten his own foundational lesson. What did he tell the Buddha decades ago?
He told the Buddha that wisdom cannot be transferred.
You cannot learn by listening, you must learn by living.
And what happens with his son proves this perfectly. The more Siddhartha tries to protect him and teach him, the more the boy hates him.
The boy feels suffocated by his father's gentle patience.
Eventually, the boy steals their money, steals their boat, and runs away, heading straight back to the dangerous, corrupt city.
Siddhartha's heart is shattered. He wants to chase after the boy. He wants to drag him back to safety.
But standing in the forest looking toward the city, he is hit by the crushing weight of reality.
He realizes that he cannot save his son.
He realizes that his son has the absolute right to make his own disastrous mistakes, just as Siddhartha had the right to make his.
It is the ultimate tragic paradox of love.
True love, in this moment, does not mean protecting the boy.
True love means opening your hands and letting the person you love walk directly into the fire.
Knowing they will be burned, because that burn's the only thing that will ever teach them. He has to accept his son's necessary suffering.
This agonizing moment is what finally pushes Siddhartha into total acceptance.
He absorbs the pain of losing his son, and he stops fighting it.
Okay, I have to step in here and challenge this entire concept. Because the word acceptance carries a lot of dangerous baggage.
Oh, you mean?
Let us apply this to the real world we live in today. Isn't this kind of acceptance just a fancy word for surrendering?
Isn't it just a philosophical excuse to give up?
If I am sitting by a beautiful river, my stomach is full of rice, and the sun is shining, it is very easy to say, I accept the universe.
But what if someone is not by a peaceful river? What if they are trapped in a factory working 14 hours a day?
What if their basic human rights are being taken away by a corrupt government? What if a child is starving?
Those people do not need to sit and accept the universe. They need action. They need to fight. They need rebellion.
Isn't Hesse's philosophy just a luxury for people who are already safe?
That is a very powerful and necessary critique. If we misunderstand what Hesse means by acceptance, it absolutely looks like lazy passive surrender.
It looks like ignoring injustice.
But we must distinguish between passive surrender and what we can call active acceptance.
Active acceptance.
Yes. Look at how Siddhartha arrives at this state. He does not arrive at acceptance because his life is easy.
He arrives at it through the absolute destruction of his ego. He reaches it only after the agonizing loss of his child.
So it is not a weak, comfortable acceptance. It is a battle scar.
Exactly. Active acceptance is entirely about the strategic use of your internal energy.
Think about gravity. Gravity is a fundamental law of the universe.
If you spend your entire life angry at gravity, shouting at the sky because things fall down, you are fighting a battle you will lose 100% of the time.
You will exhaust yourself. That is fighting the unchangeable.
But if you accept gravity...
If you accept gravity completely, you stop fighting it. You understand how it works.
And because you understand it, you can build an airplane.
You use the laws of reality to create lift.
Active acceptance means taking all the energy you are wasting, fighting things you cannot control, like the past, like the fact that people die, like the choices of your adult children, and redirecting that massive amount of energy into the present moment.
where you actually have power.
Oh, that completely reframes it. Passive surrender is giving up on the present.
Active acceptance is giving up the fight against the unchangeable, so you can actually do something useful now.
Let us bring this into a very normal, modest context. Let us go back to language learning because it is something you listening might understand intimately.
Think about the anxiety of having an imperfect accent in a second language.
That is a brilliant example of fighting reality.
I have met so many brilliant people who are paralyzed by their accent. They hate it.
Every time they open their mouth, they are having an internal war.
They are thinking, I sound foolish. They are judging my grammar. I cannot roll my R's perfectly.
They are spending 80% of their mental energy fighting the reality of their current skill level.
And what happens? They freeze. They cannot find the words. The anxiety chokes them.
They are fighting gravity.
Exactly. But what happens when someone practices active acceptance?
What happens when they look in the mirror and say, okay, I have a strong accent, I make grammar mistakes, that is my reality today. I cannot instantly change my vocal cords.
The immediate result is usually a massive drop in physical anxiety.
Yes, the tension leaves their shoulders.
And the incredible irony is that by accepting their imperfection, they instantly become better communicators.
They have freed up all that mental energy.
Now they can smile, they can read the body language of the person they are talking to, and the vocabulary flows more easily.
Acceptance did not mean they gave up learning. It meant they removed the emotional block so they could actually speak.
Active acceptance clears the fog so you can navigate the road in front of you.
It is a beautiful and highly practical philosophy when you understand it correctly.
However, as much as we can praise the philosophy of the river, we have an obligation to look at this text with clear eyes.
We are reading a book written in 1922 by a European man.
If we look at it through a modern lens, we have to admit that it has some massive blind spots.
Let us move into some honest critiques of Siddhartha.
I think this is crucial. True intellectual deep dives require us to see the flaws as well as the brilliance.
We cannot treat the book as a sacred object that is immune to criticism.
Let us start with the most glaring limitation for a modern reader: the perspective on women.
Yes. When you read this book today, it is overwhelmingly obvious that the universe of Siddhartha is a male-only universe.
The journey to enlightenment is reserved entirely for men.
The women in the book are not fully realized human beings. They are essentially background scenery or plot devices.
Let us look at Kamala, the most prominent female character.
She is the courtesan who teaches Siddhartha about the physical world.
She is intelligent and beautiful, but she is given no internal spiritual life of her own.
She exists solely to provide Siddhartha with the experience of lust and wealth.
Once he has learned his lesson, he leaves her.
And later, she conveniently dies from a snake bite just so Siddhartha can take custody of their son.
She is used as a stepping stone for the male hero's growth, and then she is removed from the story.
And what about Siddhartha's mother? She is barely a shadow in the first chapter.
Siddhartha leaves his family, and the narrative focuses entirely on how his father feels. The mother's grief is completely ignored.
The female characters are tools, not travelers.
It is a profound structural limitation. Hesse is reflecting the patriarchal assumptions of his time and his culture.
If a female reader approaches this text today, she has to do a lot of mental translation to place herself inside the spiritual journey, because the author certainly did not place her there.
That leads directly to another major critique. Let us talk about the privilege of seeking.
The entire structure of Siddhartha's journey requires a staggering amount of social and economic privilege.
The privilege to simply walk away.
Exactly. Look at his actions. One day, as a teenager, he decides he is unhappy, so he just abandons his family and his community to go live in the woods.
Years later, he decides business is depressing, so he abandons his employees, his wealth, and his pregnant lover to go sit by a river.
He just drops all of his responsibilities whenever he feels spiritually unfulfilled.
To do that, you need a very specific set of circumstances. You need robust physical health.
You need infinite free time. And most importantly, you need to be free from the consequences of leaving.
Think about you listeners right now. Most people listening to this cannot just walk into the forest to find themselves.
You have young children who need to be fed tonight. You have elderly parents who need medicine. You have a mortgage, you have student loans, and you have a boss who expects you at the office at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
To tell a working parent that the ultimate path to wisdom requires abandoning society and meditating in silence is absurd.
It is a luxury that 99% of the human race simply cannot afford.
That is a highly valid criticism. Siddhartha operates like a fable or a myth.
It is a beautiful poetic metaphor, but it is not a practical sociological model.
It does not teach you how to find enlightenment while standing in line at the grocery store or while trying to pay your electricity bill.
Which brings up a third critique,
Right.
the vagueness of the book.
We mentioned earlier that it is high literature. We can also call it experience literature.
It is designed to make you feel something, not to give you a set of instructions.
It is the opposite of a modern self-help book. A modern book usually ends with bullet points. Wake up at 5 a.m., write 3 things you are grateful for, drink a glass of water. Right. But when you finish Siddhartha, you close the book, and you feel a deep, beautiful sense of peace for about 20 minutes.
But then Tuesday morning arrives.
You look at your email inbox, your car has a flat tire, and your colleague is being rude to you.
You think, wait, what do I actually do? How do I apply the concept of the eternal river to my flat tire?
The book is beautiful art, but it leaves you entirely on your own when it comes to daily execution.
Finally, we should briefly touch upon the cultural aspect. Hermann Hesse was a German man steeped in Western Romanticism.
Writing his interpretation of Eastern philosophies like Buddhism and Hinduism.
So it is not a perfectly accurate historical text.
No. Scholars often point out that Hesse mixed various traditions together, projecting his own Western ideals of individualism onto Eastern concepts.
It is a fusion. It should be appreciated as a brilliant piece of European literature inspired by the East, rather than a strict scholarly guide to Buddhist theology.
Okay, we have been tough on the book. We acknowledge the female characters are flat, the journey is privileged, the advice is vague, and the philosophy is a cultural blend.
But despite all of those very real flaws, this book has survived for over a century.
Millions of people read it and feel profoundly moved. There is undeniably deep value in his pages.
So as we move toward the end of our deep dive, I want us to do the work that the book refuses to do.
I want us to create some practical instructions. How can we distill these massive abstract concepts into actionable tools that our listener can actually try today?
I love this challenge. Let us translate the poetry into practice. We can extract 3 specific tools from Siddhartha's journey.
Let us call the first tool Vasudeva's listening.
The ferryman's method. How do we apply that in a modern setting?
It requires a conscious experiment during your very next conversation. It could be with your partner over dinner or with a colleague during a meeting.
When they start speaking, your goal is to silence the machine in your head.
Notice when your brain starts to formulate a reply. The second you think, oh, I know what I'm going to say next. Catch yourself.
And force your mind back to their voice. Stop trying to solve their problems. Stop judging if they are right or wrong.
Try to listen to them with the absolute stillness of a quiet room.
That is incredibly difficult. But I imagine if you can do it even for 3 minutes, the other person will feel it.
People rarely feel truly heard. If you offer them that silent mirror-like attention, the entire energy of the conversation will shift.
They will feel respected in a very rare way. Okay, what is practical tool number 2?
Tool number 2 relates to the river and time. Let us call it the life retrospective.
This requires a piece of paper and a pen. I want you to write down 3 distinct chapters or periods of your past.
Specifically, choose the periods that you have always labeled as bad, embarrassing, or wasted time.
For example, the 2 years I spent in a terrible relationship, or the degree I studied for but never used, or the time I failed trying to start a small business.
Exactly. Take those painful chapters out of the dark closet. Look at them under the light of Hesse's philosophy.
Ask yourself very specifically, what exact piece of wisdom did that failure give me? What boundary did I learn to set? What kind of resilience did I build?
Force yourself to reframe that period. Stop looking at it as a detour and start looking at it as the exact road that was necessary to build the person you are today.
You are actively rewriting the narrative of your own history. You are turning your failures into required classes.
I love that. And what is the third tool?
The third tool is an exercise in active acceptance. Let us call it 1 day of acceptance.
I want you to identify one specific recurring annoyance in your daily life that you cannot immediately change, but that always ruins your mood.
It could be the heavy traffic on the way to work. It could be a neighbor's dog barking.
It could be a chronic ache in your knee, something that drains your energy because you mentally fight it every single day.
Yes. The goal is not to fix it because you cannot. The goal is an internal shift.
For just 1 day, 24 hours, make a deliberate conscious choice to drop your weapons.
When you sit in the traffic, do not grip the steering wheel in anger. Do not sigh.
Say to yourself, This is the reality of the road today. Let the annoyance simply exist without fighting it.
Notice how much physical and mental energy returns to your body when you stop pushing against a solid wall.
Vasudevas, listening to connect with others. The life retrospective to heal your past. And one day of acceptance to reclaim your energy in the present.
Those are three fantastic, tangible ways to bring the spirit of the river into a busy modern life.
As we draw this exploration to a close, let us synthesize the entire journey we have taken today.
We have covered a massive amount of ground. If we compress the core message of Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha into its purest form, it is a warning and a promise.
The warning is that true wisdom cannot be delivered to you on a silver platter.
You cannot buy it in a bookstore. You cannot memorize it from a brilliant teacher. You cannot just copy the people you admire.
Because borrowed wisdom is fragile. It will shatter the moment real tragedy strikes.
Exactly. The promise is that wisdom must be earned, and the only currency you can use to buy it is your own lived experience.
And that experience must include the entire spectrum of human life. It includes the beautiful moments of spiritual clarity.
And it includes the ugly, embarrassing moments of greed, failure, and despair.
You cannot skip the dark valley. Every single phase you have survived, especially the ones you still call your worst mistakes, was an essential drop of water in your own river.
The water has to flow through the mud and over the jagged rocks before it can finally reach the peace of the ocean.
That is a wonderful summary of the novel's heart. And before we sign off, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to carry with you this week.
It builds on the life retrospective we just discussed. I want to ask you a very direct question.
Is there a specific period in your life that you still categorize as lost time?
A year, or maybe a whole decade, that you wish you could simply cut out of your biography with a pair of scissors?
Bring that time into your mind right now. What would happen if, starting this exact minute, you changed your relationship to that memory?
What if you decided firmly that those years were not a mistake, but a completely necessary, unavoidable stage of your river?
How much lighter would you feel if you forgave yourself for taking the long way around? We would love to hear your thoughts on this.
That is a deeply provocative question to chew on. It has the power to change how you sleep tonight.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this deep dive into Siddhartha.
Remember the analogy we started with? You can stand safely on the dry beach for the rest of your life.
You can read every manual ever written about how to kick your legs and how to hold your breath.
But the only way you will ever truly understand the ocean is to gather your courage, jump into the freezing waves, and get completely wet.
So go out there this week, embrace your messy, awkward, necessary mistakes, and experience the water for yourself. Until next time.